All right, hello and welcome. If you're here revising for your GCSE computer science exam, you are in exactly the right place. This is your quick and dirty explainer for section 1.5 of that OCR J277/01 paper, all about system software. We're going to cover what you need to know, skip what you don't, and get you feeling confident for that exam.
Okay, let's jump right in with a question to get the brain working. You use apps, you play games, you browse the web all day long. But have you ever just stopped and thought, what is the software that's running all of that software? What's that invisible layer that makes everything else even possible?
Well, that's your answer right there. Systems software. The best way to think about it is like the foundations of a house. You don't really see them, you don't think about them, but without them, the whole house, all your apps, all your programs would just collapse. It's the software that brings the physical computer parts to life.
So for your exam, this is the definition you want to lock in. System software is basically all those low-level programs that do two main things. They manage the computer's hardware, and they give your application software, like your games and web browsers, a platform to actually run on. It's the critical bridge between your software and the physical machine. Now, the most important piece of system software, the one you've definitely heard of, is the operating system, the OS. If system software is the foundation, then the OS is the boss. It's the manager, the director. It's the one in charge of absolutely everything that happens on your computer. It calls all the shots. And listen up, because for your exam, the specification is super clear on this. You have to know the 5 core jobs or functions of the OS. They are the user interface, memory management and multitasking, peripheral management, user management, and finally, file management. So let's break each of those down. First on the list, the user interface, or UI. This is probably the part you're most familiar with, even if you don't realize it. It's simply how you, the human, talk to the computer. It's the go-between for you and all that complicated stuff happening inside the box. Now, a graphical user interface, a GUI, is what most of us use every day. Think Windows, Mac OS, Android, all those pretty Windows icons and menus that you can click on. But there's another kind, the command line interface, or CLI. That's where you type in text commands. A bit more old school, yeah, but incredibly powerful. The OS manages both types, translating what you do into instructions the computer gets. Next up, and this one is huge, memory management and multitasking. I mean, how can you possibly have a web browser open, music playing, and a game running all at the same time without the whole thing just exploding? Well, that's the OS working its magic behind the scenes. So here's how the OS pulls off this juggling act. First, it chops up the computer's memory, the RAM, and gives each running program its own little space to play in. Then, it's constantly managing the data moving in and out of that memory for every single program. And that's what creates the illusion that everything is running at the exact same time without any of them stepping on each other's toes.
So the OS is handling all your software. But what about the hardware? All the stuff you plug in? Well, that brings us to function number 3, peripheral management. And peripheral is just a fancy word for any device connected to your computer. Keyboard, mouse, printer, you name it. The OS is in charge of all of them. Yep, the OS is like a traffic cop, managing all the data flowing between the processor and your devices. And to do this, it uses these special little helper programs called drivers. See, every piece of hardware speaks its own unique language, and a driver is basically a translator that lets the OS understand and control that specific device. It's pretty clever stuff. Fourth on our list, user management. If you've ever had to log into a computer at school, you have seen this in action. The OS is basically the bouncer at the door, keeping track of who's allowed in and what they're allowed to do once they're inside. The OS sets up individual user accounts, right? And for each one, it can dish out specific permissions. So maybe a student account can't install software, but a teacher's account can. This is so important for security. It makes sure you can only see your own files and can't accidentally mess up the system. It just keeps everything safe and organized. And the last of the big 5 OS functions you need to know is file management. Every single thing on your computer, your homework, your photos, your programs, is a file. The OS is like a massive digital librarian that organizes this entire library. It knows exactly where everything is and can grab it for you in an instant. So whenever you save a document, give it a name and stick it in a folder, that's the OS's file management system doing the work. It figures out where to physically put it on the hard drive, but it shows it to you in that nice, neat structure of files and folders we're all used to. Every time you move, copy, or delete something, you're just giving an order to the OS.
Okay, so that's the OS, the boss. But even the best boss needs a good toolkit to get the job done. And that's where utility software comes into play. Think of utilities as the computer's maintenance crew, doing all the important housekeeping jobs to keep your system fast, safe, and efficient. Let's look at the 3 main utilities you need to know. First up, encryption software. This scrambles your data for security. Then there's defragmentation. This tidies up your hard drive to make it faster. And finally, data compression, which makes your files smaller to save space. So you've got security, performance, and storage. Simple.
Pew. Okay, we've covered a fair bit there, so let's just boil it all down into a final revision checklist. These are the absolute must-know bottom line points for this section. If you can explain these, you are in fantastic shape for the exam.
Takeaway number 1. You have to be able to list and give a quick explanation of those 5 core OS functions. Say them out loud with me. User interface, memory and multitasking, peripheral management, user management, and file management. Get those locked in your brain.
And takeaway number 2, know the purpose of those 3 main utilities. The easiest way is to link the word to the benefit. So encryption is for security, defragmentation is for performance, and compression is for storage. Security, performance, storage. Got it? Now, here is a massive exam tip. And this comes directly from the OCR specification, so listen up. You do not need to get bogged down in the super complex details of memory management, like things called paging or segmentation. So please don't waste your precious revision time on them. Just focus on the core functions we've covered. I promise you've got this. Okay, I'm going to leave you with one final question to chew on, something to really test your understanding. If you wanted to boost your computer's performance, which of these utilities would you run first? Defragmentation or data compression? Think about what each one does and how one might affect the other. That's the kind of thinking that'll make your answers really shine. Good luck with the revision. You're going to smash it.